Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, thank you so much for the invitation. I'm really excited to be here. I want to start my remarks by congratulating Congresswoman Gonzalez for her leadership in organizing this effort. It is, yeah, go ahead. She has been a steadfast supporter of our transformation process in Puerto Rico, and the energy transformation is no different. As a matter of fact, it is the linchpin of our priority sets and what we aspire to have in the future. After my talk, you're going to get the smart people, which are my staff members and the heads of the agencies, to talk a little bit more on detail. But I would really just like to share our vision in general, bring it down to our vision of energy in Puerto Rico as a priority, and then seeing what a big role LNG is going to have in the midterm for the development, mid and long term, for the development of energy in Puerto Rico and in the Caribbean. So let me first start by saying, we had high aspirations for our island when we aspired for this position. Of course, we were hit by a major storm that changed a lot of the conditions that we had. Sure, there was devastation, but there also brought new opportunities. And within those opportunities, we wanted to make sure that we knew what the path forward for a new island, an island that was inviting to folks, that would be open for business and then would allow progress to ensue, would be available to us. Now, some might see that as a tough hill to climb, with what the fiscal challenges that we've had, economic challenges that we've had, and of course the insults of Mother Nature. But I want to assure you that it is very possible and that we're well on our way to making that transformation. I want to establish what our 5 major goals are in general for Puerto Rico. Number 1, we want a Puerto Rico that's open for business. You will have our Secretary of Economic Development over here. He will be one of the persons that's going to be establishing that path forward. But in essence, we want to reduce the bureaucracy. We want to increase the opportunities. We want to invite folks to come into our island and to make our economy bigger than what it's been in the past. And we recognize that in order to do that, energy is a linchpin of our economic growth. Number 2, we want Puerto Rico to become the connector of the Americas. If you just grab a map, you'll see that it makes sense. Puerto Rico, it's dead smack in the middle of the Americas. But on top of that, culturally, we are part of the United States, and we have cultural ties to the rest of Latin America. It makes absolute sense that business, diplomacy, any other interaction crosses roads here in Puerto Rico. It makes sense that Puerto Rico becomes a connecting dock, if you will, for transportation and to the rest of the Americas. And hopefully this is something that will be talked about over here, and something that the Congresswoman actually is fighting vehemently for in Congress to achieve. Number 3, we see Puerto Rico as the island of innovation. And this is based on the notion that while we're a small island, our human resource is very good, and we want to potentiate it in a direction where moving towards the future, we're not just spectators of the change that's occurring in the world, but we are spearheading those efforts, and that whatever happens in Puerto Rico can be modeled elsewhere as a story of success. That is why our recovery is going to be modeled into a resilient type of a recovery, where we use the resources that are coming to Puerto Rico, not to build back as it was, but to build much better and in innovative ways. Omar Marrero is spearheading that effort. And the idea also connects with energy, because I think the model that will showcase that we are building innovatively and resiliently is using our energy grid, which right now, unfortunately, is one of the worst in the region, and flipping it completely into being one of the best in the model for years to come. And the 4th point is what we're calling, we want Puerto Rico to be the home of the human cloud. We want, as jobs are becoming geographically independent, we want people to see Puerto Rico as the optimal place to be at, to start their business, to have a great quality of life, and to help us grow our economy and our society. We already have some of the most competitive incentives anywhere else in the nation. We have some of the most robust or the gold standard P3 structure in the United States. And now what we need to do is identify certain chronic problems that we've had in the past and flip them into being not only neutral, but actually an opportunity. And there are several, but energy is the main one. And that is why, after outlining all of those 4 vision points and adding what we call the empowering state, which is empowering our folks to have better access to healthcare, better access to opportunities, we established a priority set, an order of where we want to make our impact the biggest and where we want to focus the resources of government. And number 1 on that list is energy. So to some people, it may surprise that is the outcome. Some folks might say, well, why not healthcare? Why not education? Which are on the top of the list. But after the storm, we saw that if you have zero energy, you don't have a working healthcare system. You don't have a working model of education. You don't have a thriving economy or businesses that are open. So it is very clear to me that in order for us to step up in all of the other fronts, we need to have a strong, robust energy model for Puerto Rico. And that is why our vision within that, and immediately after the storm, I called for transformation. Transformation from our energy grid, which is, again, one of the worst in the region, that it's centered on the agency itself as opposed to its people, that is costly, that is damaging to the environment, and that it's unreliable. And our objective is to change that into a customer-centric energy model in Puerto Rico that is based on renewables and gas, that reduces the cost of energy in a significant margin, that increases the reliability, and that has added built-in resiliency so that when another insult of Mother Nature comes, we can respond from it very quickly. In that mindset, we have a lot of levers to pull, and we've pulled many of them. A transformation law that has been talked about for 30 years in Puerto Rico, we did it. A P3 structure that is receiving now proposals from the private sector in the form of the unsolicited proposal form. We've done that, and now we are in the process of showcasing these new generational models that are being proposed for Puerto Rico. Getting an IRP together, which we are happy to announce that we got it done just in the past month. Establishing a path forward for the concession of transmission and distribution in Puerto Rico, which we are happy to say we're well on track to meeting our December 2019 deadline of closing this deal. And testing the market, which the response has been great, as well as already local operational efficiencies that we're working on. And finally, the regulatory framework, which right now there's a bill in the House and the Senate. We're confident should be ironed out within the next couple of weeks, which would give us a more robust set of the policy directives and a more robust regulatory framework for Puerto Rico. All of those things are the things that are within our power. We're doing them, and we're well on the path forward to executing them. What the outlying question right now is the federal resources that are going to come to Puerto Rico. We are confident that with our continued support with the federal government, showing that we have all of these projects and all of these needs, and that investing smartly the taxpayer money over here will be of benefit not only for the U.S. citizens in Puerto Rico, but for all the U.S. citizens, because taxpayer money will be spent wisely and in a constructive fashion. We will be able to have that Energy 2.0 model that we aspire to have. Just recently, we established that the initial construction for the transformation of San Juan 5 and 6, as well as its port, so that we can turn it from expensive diesel burning fuel into LNG. That is a first critical step of something that has been talked about for a while, but that we're finally doing it, and that it should be done and working by the end of the summer. Like that, we have projects in Mayagüez, potential projects in the southeast of the island as well as smaller microgrids that will be powered by CHP and LNG process to achieve our aspirational goal, or our pragmatic goal, by 2023 to have 40% renewables, and the rest 60% will be LNG. That is a framework that we're working towards, and we're working diligently towards doing, because we recognize that without a strong energy infrastructure and system, Puerto Rico will be lagging behind, and without that, we won't be able to work on all of the other policy measures that will get us to our highest aspirations. Lastly, I would say that you will find in our government a friendly hand. We want to collaborate with all of the international and national stakeholders that are over here. We want to listen to your proposals. We have the mechanisms that are available, the P3 structure, just for reference. Within the United States in the past 2.5 years, there have been 3 P3 projects that have been assigned. Over here in Puerto Rico, we have 7 on the pipeline that are all ready to be considered. So by 2020, Puerto Rico will likely have more P3 projects than the whole of the rest of the United States, which is an important statement to be made and showcase. I think that clap is my cue. I should be wrapping up. But here's my final thought. This is the most exciting time to invest in Puerto Rico. After the storm, there is opportunity. There is a government that's willing to make policy changes. There is a clear path or where we want to go with LNG, and there's a clear spirit of collaborating with our stakeholders so that we make those changes. There's clear examples that these changes are going on and that we want broader and more effective changes towards the future. So I would invite all of you to strongly consider Puerto Rico as a place not only to invest, perhaps to call home, and to at some point see it as a connector of the Americas, where we can not only use the LNG, but also become an important hub towards transporting it. Thank you for being here, and thank you for supporting the rebuild of the new Puerto Rico.